Right now, for more on that, we are joined by Advocate Stefanie Fick, the Accountability Executive Director at Outa organization Undoing Tax Abuse. Advocate Fick, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. The plea and sentencing negotiation, it doesn't feel like the accountability that we actually were seeking in this particular matter. Because yes, the 6 were the actors, but they were acting on behalf of some higher individuals, as the advocate there was saying, unknown persons who really wanted to hide their corrupt activity. How do you feel as Outa on this outcome?
One should celebrate the small victories. I do think that this was a victory. At least some of the suspects are behind bars, and I think the sentence also sounds, in line with what these type of sentences should be. And I think, the plea in terms of Section 105A means that, the state doesn't have to go through a trial, lengthy trial and problems and all of that. So I do think that we need to celebrate these small victories. But yes, of course, I think, to get the shooter behind bars, the person that, gave the instruction for this to happen, and one think that it should be probably someone that was involved in this whole debacle. But then we should also not forget the people that were actually involved in the corruption. They still need to be brought to book. So, again, I want to reiterate, I think, this is a victory, but are we looking for more accountability? Of course, yes.
Yeah. And do you get a sense that we will be able to get to them? And the NPA says in a statement that they are following certain people of interest that would have been named during the plea and sentencing negotiations. It's 2 years on, and there's a lot of delays that would have happened in that process. Do you think this would provide us the information that will get us to the masterminds?
Sure, we will have to see what the future brings. All we can hope for is that the NPA with the Hawks, in other words, the SAPS, that they will prioritize this type of investigations, and that that they will do the job that they should do, and that we may find accountability in future. It's not too late. It's never too late. Sometimes the wheel of justice is turning a bit slowly, and it's not turning as fast as one would like it to turn, but at least it's turning. So I hope they prove to us that wheel is still turning. That's all they can do, because I do think, whistleblowers, what Babita exposed, and then what happened to her, and just the tragedy that will remain with families. I hope that the NPA will take their job seriously, and the police. I mean, the NPA is only as strong as the investigation conducted by the police, and that we will see accountability. We will see people behind bars, the people that are really sitting behind this tragedy.
Yeah, and that's the frustration, isn't it? How do we turn the wheels of justice full throttle? Put foot and turn it. I mean, only just now we're hearing of the SIU proclamation actually being put together, when this should have been done a long time ago, and we will be further ahead as far as this process is concerned.
Agreed. I agree with you 100%. I don't think anybody can dispute that. What is a tragedy is that we've heard of people being on suspension, but one actually wants to scream they should be on suspension without pay and standing in a dock already, for the alleged corruption. We've heard the horror stories. I mean, you've just mentioned the genes. And that being said, in circumstances where people are really struggling, people are sitting in queues at clinics, our health system is not what it's supposed to be. So it's also, the whole idea of corruption is just eradicating. We need to eradicate it, because it destroys communities. It is destroying South Africa. But I do think that we still need to see the will to hold people to account, especially you do get the impression that the higher up you are still sort of protected. I mean, was there really accountability for the previous Minister of Health, etc.? So I want to say there still needs to be a political will to really tackle this corruption bull by its horns and eradicate, getting rid of people and getting people on board that will really fight for what is right, making sure that there's accountability, that accountability happens expeditiously, and that we can really get, for example, health. And health is not the only department that needs help on the road. But I just want to interrupt myself a little bit by saying we should also take into consideration that I think after state capture and the fact that, I think the NPA, the Hawks, SIU, all, state capture had an impact on so many departments, and we need more resources in order to investigate. We've heard the crime stats, and is there a political will to change that? So, it all goes hand in hand. Do we need to lose hope? No, not at all. Yeah. Because I do believe that, if as communities keep on shouting from the rooftops and putting a spotlight, journos, Newzroom Afrika, putting a light on these type of things, that we will start seeing the turning.
Is there absolutely. Is there political will, as we speak about it, to protect whistleblowers? I was listening to the Deokaran family earlier on. They don't seem to think so. They think actually there is no political will at all. In fact, there's more political will to let them be exposed and be harmed more than anything else.
I think we still hear too many horror stories of people being exposed to corruption, wanting to expose it, and then they just become victims. They're victimized, they are pushed out. I mean, if you just think in our instance with Cynthia Stimple and Tulium Shea and all of those that sort of exposed what was happening at SAA, how they struggle to get work afterwards. That one would think that, business would embrace people that is willing to, fight for good governance and ethical behavior. And that's just not what we're seeing. So yes, there is this question, is there really a will to protect whistleblowers? Because sometimes, a case, an exposure of corruption is heavily reliant on whistleblowers, people that will stand up and say, no matter what happens to me, I am going to expose the corrupt because I cannot let that continue. And do we see the support? I mean, civil society is trying, but you really need the support from government, better legislation, and that there is sort of the reverse, that the people that are corrupt are being victimized, if you hear what I'm saying, and not the whistleblowers, that they are actually the heroes in some of these stories. Yes, there's people that, uses the whole whistleblower thing negatively. But I think as a whole and in general, that whistleblowers just wants to expose the rot. And are they supported? And I unfortunately still think that the answer is no. And I feel so sorry for the family. There's absolutely nothing that will bring back this heroine, this woman that absolutely stood her ground. And then someone made a decision, probably because they're scared that they are going to be exposed. But thank goodness for her bravery. And hopefully we can celebrate her bravery for years to come, and that someone like her gives the next whistleblower, the energy to stand up and say, I'm not going to accept this.
Advocate Fick, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on tonight. Stefanie Fick, she is with the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, Executive Director for Accountability there. Right.